This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined, as always, by Eddie Hearn. We're here at the Anthony Joshua Jarrell Miller London press conference. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm alright. I've just realised I need a slash.
It's convenient.
Yes, but I'll be okay for the next however long you need me. 90 seconds. Go on.
We'll do our best. Talk to me about the press conference today.
A little bit more low-key than the one in New York in terms of the actions and table smashing and pushing and shoving. I'm enjoying seeing this Anthony Joshua, to be honest with you. Like, you get people, oh, he's boring, he doesn't say, but he's trying to be a role model, trying to say the right things and trying to act in a certain way. But he's still that bad kid who was in gangs and got nicked and was going down the wrong path. And there's like this sort of myth that AJ was given stuff, like coming through, like everything was handed on a plate to him. And when you hear stories like I borrowed 25 quid to buy a pair of boxing boots and just gave it a crack, and where he's got to, it's incredible. So I think he's out there to prove a point. And he said, what did he say? I want to reconstruct Miller's face. Like, that's not something you hear Joshua say. So he has got that bit between his teeth. He can't make the mistakes he made when he fought Dillian Whyte, which was fighting off emotion and stuff like that. So we'll have to see. But he's got to just stay calm and go in there at a sold-out Madison Square Garden and put on a show.
How much of that side of Anthony Joshua do you think is due to Jarrell Miller winding him up? Obviously a lot of verbals last week, and how much of that do you think is potentially down to, rightly or wrongly, criticism he's received over opponents?
Mainly Jarrell Miller, but I do think there's a little bit of that. I don't think it's... I do feel like he feels like, what the fuck have I got to do? Like, look at my resume after 22 fights. I've fought everybody that I've been asked to fight. Okay, we didn't get the Wilder fight, but like, that's why I sometimes get disappointed with Lennox Lewis, because if you look at the resume after 22 fights of both guys, Joshua's is on another planet. And Lennox became a great. So let Joshua become a great, because he will, and he will fight everybody. But of course, fans want everything now, and that's their job to want everything now. But I think he's got the bit between his teeth to go out and prove to people that he's the best. That's good. You need challenges. You need to want to have that motivation. You can't just feel like, oh, I'm top of the tree and, just get through this guy. He actually wants to go out there and not just deal with Jarrell Miller, but deal with all these guys as well. And I truly believe he's going to do it.
How refreshing is it for you to have, by all intents and purposes, Anthony Joshua's been very respectful throughout his career, but now you've got somebody who's really trying to wind him up and get under his skin. Is that pound signs in your eyes?
Yeah. I don't think you have to worry about pound signs with Anthony Joshua, but it's more about motivating him. So I don't have to, when we do an AJ fight, I don't think, oh, hopefully we sell this, or oh, if he can say something. It's just, it happens. But to have that interest, and there were a few people who were a bit lukewarm about this fight. And now they're like, oh, actually, this is all right, I quite enjoy it. I'm up for this. And that's always good. But it's not, it's genuine. Like, Jarrell Miller's don't particularly like him. He don't particularly like Jarrell Miller. And Miller's a good talker. He's trying to get under his skin. And I think he's doing a decent job of it. And I think it's refreshing to see Joshua, revert to type, I think is a good way to say it. Because you can change as a person, but you never really change who you are or where you come from. So, like, I always use the example, like, me or you, despite the fact we're both shit, could never be a great fighter because we're a pair of old tarts, right? And we haven't got that mindset. We're not tough enough. We don't come from that kind of cloth. He does. You can't be a fighter unless you're built like that. And when you get buttons pressed, when you get someone backing you up and sticking it on you, that's what you do. Me and you might go, oh, mate, leave it. Just have a cup of tea. But they're like, no, fuck you. Well, I'm here. And that's the mentality. And sometimes people go, oh, like, if you saw Jarrell Miller when they come to head, they did it. And he said something like, yeah, fuck you or something. He went, oh, whoa, that's the AJ we want to see. And it's like, that people want to see that in AJ. But it's there. But you're not going to get that against Klitschko, Povetkin, Parker, Takan. You saw it against Dillian. But he lost his rag against Dillian and he boxed off emotion. And he mustn't do that this time.
Now, one comment that did raise a lot of eyebrows was Jarrell Miller referencing TUEs, therapeutic usage exemptions. Just your thoughts on that first and foremost.
Well, look, Jarrell Miller's calling Anthony Joshua a drug cheat and all this kind of stuff. There is no one more tested in the sport of boxing than Anthony Joshua. He pays for Vada to test him and his fighter consistently, extra testing than he's already on. So, again, this is a 14-week Vada test. Dillian White's called AJ cheat. Joseph Parker called AJ cheat. Everybody's called AJ cheat. I think Jarrell Miller actually has failed a drug test in the past, but you know, I don't get too involved with it. I just know that the same testing's in place again here, and you know, Jarrell Miller's a big boy.
So Vada testing's involved for this fight. How long is the testing window?
14 weeks, as when contracts are signed. On this occasion, even more. But he's also on UCAD testing, whereabouts, and complete Vada testing as he always is. He's tested 2, sometimes 3 times a week in camp. I actually think it's too much. It's too much blood to take. But that's something that he wants to do. And it's actually to protect him as well. Like, he doesn't want to be going into a fight with an American who have 0 testing policy across their country. They don't have the British Boxing Board of Control, because UK anti-doping are also testing Joshua. And I think that's a massive problem in America.
Jarrell, sorry, I've just been distracted by Mr. Scott Hamilton. Couple of minutes, no problem. Jarrell Miller is somebody who has, in the past, fell victim. I think he failed for the same thing that Dillian White failed for initially. I spoke to Mauricio Suleiman, who mentioned the fact that Jarrell's not part of the clean boxing program, which is 365 a day a year Vada. Just wondered if you knew why.
No, you have to ask him that.
I did ask about it.
Okay. What did he say?
I'll have to watch Boxing Social later. Anyway, moving on to the fight. A lot of talking about negotiations, this, that, and the other, networks, etc. Let's talk about the fight. The fight's been made now. How dangerous a challenger is Jarrell Miller to Anthony Joshua? Very
dangerous. There's a lot of unknowns. We know he's a world-class heavyweight. Is he up there with Wilders and Furies? You don't really know till they get stuck in at this level. He's very heavy. He has a tremendous work rate. He throws a lot of punches. He apparently has a granite chin. Although Fury said he knocked him down 7 times, which sounds a bit strange. Did you ask him about that as well? Yeah, should have done. Okay. So I think it's a good test. It's also a test, new commission, new time zone, new venue, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of tests in this fight, and I think it's a good fight. You don't see Joshua in bad fights, and I think Miller will bring out the best in him.
We've seen the video circulating from after, I think it was the Parker fight, Povetkin fight of Anthony Joshua in the ring. This wasn't the plan to box in New York. Now it's kind of gone that way. Do you have any regrets of kind of the way that AJ has gone about things in the past, kind of the comments that he'd made?
About what? Like,
we don't need to go to America, we're going to stay away, etc.
That wasn't the plan. You know, at no point did he go, let's go to America. I just said, look, we can't get, obviously, Wilder Fury fighting each other. I can't do a deal with Dillian White. This is out there. The zone of launch, there's a lot of money. It's a perfect fight for you to go and break the American market. What do you think? And he said, yeah, let's do it. Like, and every day that passes, I'm starting to think it was a better and better idea, because there is another world out there. And as much as he is created and probably, you know, really responsible for the UK boxing boom, we can't ignore what else is out there. And I think it is an important marketplace for him to go and crack.
Try and skate through this next section. Tyson Fury's ESPN deal. First thoughts on that?
I don't know a lot about it. I mean, I'm sure it's a good deal for him. I think MTK did a deal with him. Obviously, it's going to disrupt a lot of the bigger fights, but he's got to look after himself. But, you know, he gave all his last purse to charity, didn't he? So I'm sure he's going to give this one to charity as well.
I spoke to Frank Smith earlier. He said to me that the Tyson Fury fight is now more difficult to make than the Deontay Wilder fight, which has hardly been an easy fight to make. Yeah, just your thoughts on that. Explain that to me.
Just because Wilder's come out and said he's a free agent. So he can box on DAZN and we can box on Showtime. We can box on ESPN. The only one who's actually restricted now is Fury, I think. But so what? He's getting a load of money. He probably don't care if he's restricted. If I'm Al Heyman, I just go and make the Joshua fight. I mean, he's a guy who's supposed to be renowned for making power moves. Go out there and make the undisputed fight. It's the biggest fight in world boxing.
If Deontay, for example, if the WBC call purse bids and ESPN win the purse bid, or Wilder indeed signs with ESPN, does that mean that neither Fury or Wilder will be facing Joshua anytime soon?
No, we can fight on ESPN.
Joshua can fight on ESPN? I thought he was exclusive to DAZN.
He is for this fight, and they have a matching rights for him, but they won't get in the way, and we won't let anybody get away of an undisputed fight. The only restriction we have, and it's not a restriction because they're amazing partners, is he has a Sky contract. Yeah. So he has a fight-by-fight with DAZN. We're going to be with DAZN for a long time. He wants to be DAZN for the rest of his career. And they also have matching rights. But they pay more money than anybody else. So I don't see it as restricted. But we can box on ESPN and we can box on Showtime if we wish.
Just final one. When you were in New York last week doing the press conference and the press tour, ESPN released a statement, or there was a statement attributed to ESPN about Joshua due to scheduled to appear on ESPN. That was cancelled on their point of view at the last minute by Team Joshua. Just your thoughts?
No, ESPN cancelled it.
Why was that?
I don't know.
Kind of rumour mill or word on the grapevine is they weren't really too interested in promoting a DAZN fight. Does that kind of throw up potential obvious barriers in the future?
It might be that. It might be they thought that the language wasn't appropriate and it was a bit of a risk because they were both supposed to be in the studio together. That was the idea. Maybe they thought, we don't want them two in the studio, it's going to kick off, which we probably would have. So I wouldn't take too many conspiracy theories from it, but...
Does Fury's deal with ESPN and Wilder, I mean, announcing that he's potentially a free agent, does that just muddy the waters again with looking to make these big fights in the heavyweight division?
Just boxing. Like, you know, nothing's new. Nothing's changed. There's politics, there's broadcasters, there's promoters, there's fighters that want fights, fighters that don't want fights. Just got to navigate it and try and make it happen.
Eddie Hearn, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.